Social issues. Governor Kasich, you talk a good deal about your faith. In fact, you say it played a role in your decision to expand Medicaid, and you say that when you meet St. Peter at the pearly gates, he's going to ask what you did for the poor, not what you did to keep government small. Senator Cruz is on the opposite side of this issue from you, so does that mean that you're getting in and he isn't?
No, Chris. Since 2013, Ohio Governor John Kasich has toured the country telling Obamacare critics Jesus wants them to put working-age adults with no kids and no disabilities on welfare. Kasich's reply to a question about this at the January 28th presidential debate summarized the awful arguments he's been using for the past 3 years. Given the cost and enrollment of Ohio's Obamacare expansion, it's no wonder Kasich spins like a centrifuge on this issue.
Chris, here's what happened with Medicaid in my state. We took the growth of Medicaid from over 10% in my second budget to 2.5% without cutting off one person or cutting one benefit.
Obamacare expansion was separate from Kasich's second budget because the Ohio legislature voted against it. In fact, lawmakers passed an explicit ban on Obamacare expansion. Kasich vetoed the legislature's ban on the policy and expanded Obamacare anyway, pumping $4 billion in new federal spending into Ohio's Medicaid program in just 18 months. Kasich brags about 2.5% Medicaid spending growth, but he increased Medicaid spending by 33% in 4 years. While traditional Medicaid recipients haven't faced eligibility cuts yet, that's only because the legislature scrapped Kasich's proposal to remove some pregnant women and some women with breast cancer from the program.
Because we innovated the government, and now mom and dad can stay in their own home rather than being forced into a nursing home.
Kasich cut nursing home payments to pay for additional home care funding for seniors in 2011, 2 years before his Obamacare expansion.
And then we decided we could bring $14 billion of our money. I mean, Washington doesn't have any money. It was our money. We brought them back.
Kasich pretends his Obamacare expansion is paid for with Ohio money, as if he liberated a vault of Ohioans' tax dollars from some Obamacare warehouse in D.C. In reality, Medicaid expansion is paid for with billions of dollars per year in new federal deficit spending that would not have occurred if Kasich, Chris Christie, and other governors opposed Obamacare.
To tend to the mentally ill, because I don't think they ought to live in prison or live under a bridge. To treat the drug addicted so they're not in and out of door policy out of the prisons, and to help the working poor so they don't live in emergency rooms.
In no sense is Obamacare expansion targeted at drug addicts, the mentally ill, or the working poor. Eligibility for the Obamacare expansion is based strictly on income, and there are no work requirements. Kasich knows this, but he uses the drug-addicted, the mentally ill, and the working poor as props to shame critics.
How's it worked? Well, we have treated the drug-addicted in our prisons, and we released them into the community, and our recidivism rate is less than 20%. That's basically bordering on a miracle because of our great prison director.
As factcheck.org has explained, Kasich understated Ohio's recidivism rate, which actually increased after Kasich's Obamacare expansion took effect in 2014.
The mentally ill, they've been stepped on for too long in this society, and we are beginning to treat them. In terms of my faith, look, all I say is that when I study Scripture, I know that people who live in the shadows need to have a chance. But I'm not deciding that anybody's got to make these decisions the way that I do on the basis of what I do, but what I will tell you this.
During a trip to Montana and the Dakotas last January, Kasich accused Montana Republicans of killing poor people by rejecting Obamacare expansion. Months later, Montana's legislature caved to Democrat Governor Steve Bullock and expanded Medicaid.
The time has come to stop ignoring the mentally ill in this country and begin to treat them and get them on their feet, along, of course, with treating the drug addicted. Because we don't want them in and out. We don't want them in and out of the prisons. Give people a chance. We talked about criminal justice reform. We've enacted it in our state. Look, the conservative message is economic growth, and along with economic growth goes opportunity for everybody in America. Everybody ought to have a chance to be able to rise to their God-given purpose, and that is what we have done in Ohio.
To build on his myth that Obamacare expansion is paid for with Ohio money, Kasich insists the expansion is affordable because of Ohio's economic recovery. It's not, even if you ignore the fact Ohio job growth has trailed the national average for most of Kasich's time in office. Follow the links throughout this video for more details, and feel free to ask questions or berate me on Twitter @JasonAHart.